You are about to listen to a Jason Burgos exclusive interview. All right, so I'll jump right into the questions. Now, you haven't fought in MMA since 2011, and as far as I can tell, you haven't fought professionally anywhere else in any other combat sports. I saw a story about charity boxing and stuff like that. What brings you back to combat sports, and why bare knuckle fighting instead of MMA or even boxing?
Well, a couple of things. I actually did do a bare knuckle boxing match in January. I actually did one for the guys in London, the BKB boxing. I did one there. Why do that? That's a good question. I guess what happened was, I remember I was watching or looking on Facebook, and I saw a friend of mine, Joe Riggs, that said does bare knuckle boxing. I remember thinking, what is wrong with Joe? Why would he do that? So I hit play and I watched it. And I watched the fight, and as soon as I got done watching, I said, "Wow, I'd kind of like to do that." You know, that's kind of weird. Something's wrong with me. I don't know. I thought that it was different than I thought. It wasn't two idiots going out there, you know, a blood sport. It was much more measured, more calculated than I thought it would be. More than real boxing, regular boxing. You know, I had 15 professional boxing matches, and so when I saw that, it was. I guess I started thinking about why were they not just out there throwing haymakers all the time. Well, when you punch, you have to be very careful. First of all, placement. If you punch the guy at the top of the head, you're going to break your hand. Or same thing, if you just rush in there and start punching and you get hit, you're probably going to get cut open. I mean, it's just a little different. You have to be a little bit more judgmental and sparing with your punches and kind of make them count. I thought it was pretty interesting. It's like, wow, this is kind of cool. I like what I'm seeing here. I'd like to try it once because, you know, I've been a combative athlete for 20 years. I figure I want to try everything that I can while I can. And, you know, I was a boxer. I really enjoyed my years in boxing. Now, when I started signing my UFC contracts, I never had a boxing match again. So I always was kind of a little disappointed I didn't get to do, you know, any more boxing. I kind of wanted to do that. You know, I love the sport of MMA, but it would be too tough on me and my body to try to do that anymore, I think, unless you're willing to take a lot of growth hormone or whatever those people take nowadays. I don't know. I'm not willing to do it. I mean, I just don't know if I'll be 44 here next. I don't think I can get through the camp. I keep telling people, I mean, to do a boxing match is infinitely easier in my opinion. You go in there, you know, you jump rope, you shadow box for a little bit, you hit the mitts, you maybe spar a little bit. That's it. I mean, that's the first quarter of your practice with MMA. So it's just, it's a lot less time consuming and just easier on my body, I think, to do a boxing and even a bare knuckle boxing match.
So, since you mentioned the Joe Riggs thing and how you thought it was crazy, so you yourself were even skeptical about bare knuckle fighting when it started to get legalized in the States.
Well, no, I mean, it just became legalized in the States. This was last year, and I was skeptical when I heard it, of course. I said, man, it just sounded crazy to me. I was like, man, there's no way. And so I watched it. It was actually in a ring, and I was like, wow. I had a referee. I said, this is not what I thought it was going to be. It was actually, you know, really
organized,
I don't know, legitimate. It seemed like organized. It made a lot of sense, you know. And then I started thinking about it. You know, I always remember my guy Jason Gatsby told me the reason they put gloves on people to begin with had nothing to do with besides trying to make the fights last longer. You know, people weren't getting cut open as much, and you know, the human brain then would hit the skull a lot more and you take a lot more damage because you were using these bigger boxing gloves and whatnot. And I was, you know, being older, I've actually been in the sport a long time. I don't want to, you know, damage myself permanently anymore. I know is always a concern. So I figured something like bare knuckle would probably be the safest aspect. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but it may be superficially not quite as safe. You know, you might get more stitches, you might get cut open more, but you know, you're not going to suffer the brain trauma, in my opinion, as much as you would from more of a boxing or an MMA.
Yeah, I talked to David Feldman a couple months ago to interview about him, and he talked about how the it's not as it's more forgiving than other sports in that way, despite its brutal look. I mean, speaking of David, how
Uh-huh.
did this decision come about specifically to work with BKFC? Did David Feldman or his people contact you? Did you say, oh, you know what, I saw
You
Joe Riggs,
know,
I contact them?
no, I mean, like I said, the first people I went to, there was nothing available in the United States when I first started talking. This was last year. I started talking to the people at the BKB in London or in England. So I went to do one of those this past January, and then I actually came back to Indiana where I live, and I had a meeting with the commission trying to get them to say, hey, this is, told them about the safety aspect. This is safer than boxing, and that kind of blew me off. They're like, yeah, we're not gonna do it. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I didn't think much of it, and then one of Dave's guys told me, I'd done a seminar or an appearance for them at a fight, and they got a hold of me and said, hey, they're putting on a bare knuckle boxing match. It's just been legalized in Wyoming. Want to know if I would be interested. And unfortunately, that night my daughter was getting married, so I was like, June 2nd, not gonna make it, can't do that. So, but I said I'm very interested in it. Keep me in the loop, and keep me. I'd like to see how this goes, and I'm definitely interested. So after that fight, I got a hold of them and said, hey, you guys still interested? And they said, yeah. The rest is history. We're fighting now. So.
Now, one of the fascinating facets of your post MMA and UFC career was running for state senate in Indiana. Could you talk a bit about that experience of getting into politics
Sure.
like that, and your thought on politics afterwards, after
Sure.
you did the running?
I mean, I went into that very naive. I would say I knew I studied a lot of. I have very many interests, and I feel like I've been a firefighter for 17 years now. I know a lot about what happens at the street level, and I thought that was very important. I didn't think the people who were in charge really were necessarily understood the things I did, and my total goal was to try and do what's best for the people in the area that I live in. Looking at it now, I learned a lot as far as, it was very disheartening to find out. I think those people in those positions, a lot of them in general, it's not really about trying to do what's best for the people in the area you live. It's a lot about, them and, their power, their control, what they want to do. And, I didn't fit into that, and they didn't like the way that I came in. And I was kind of this big rebel in their mind. Like, I'm supposed to run for city, county council, and then if they see how I do, then they'll make a push for you to, be in charge of the city, county council, and then you can go to the state representative and then the state senate. Well, I just went right to the state senate. But what they want to do each time is see how you're going to behave, and if you're going to do what you're told. They want yes men to go in there, just follow the agenda, and they could tell right away that was really not my plan at all. There's no way I was going to go there. A lot of people go there, I think, seeking I'm an important person. I'm in charge. Look at me. I'll do it. That was nothing of what I wanted. And I felt like if that was what I wanted, I would have kept fighting. I just felt like I was trying to do some positive things for the area I lived in, and that's not at all what I think most of those people in there care about.
I mean, what are your thoughts on the current state of politics in our country in the last couple of years?
It's worse than I've ever seen as far as there's a huge divide that's getting even bigger and bigger. I think that no matter what side, I mean, they're just, the right is getting farther right, the left is getting extremely far left. And it's just people are, it's just amazing to me how people are affected and controlled by what they see in the media and what they listen to. I just, no matter what, I think there's always a little bit of truth on both sides, and I think there's a lot of misinformation. People are just really not sure what's going on here. And it's such like a tribalism where people are really believing this is my side and this is what I believe, and they will believe stuff just because some other people that they see that their side is talking about, they can kind of twist what they think and change it based on what. I love it. I'll see things right now all the time on Facebook. We'll have, go like Mike Dice or whatever, and he'll be like, hey, I'm going to go to this college campus and tell people how bad this policies that Trump was making, and everybody would be like, yeah, I hate this. This is terrible. And they're like, oh, those were all Obama policies. And it just goes like, oh, you do stuff like that. And you can do it the same way the other. You can say, how about, do you love these Trump policies? Well, those are actually Obama. I mean, the people are just, these college kids or adults are just yelling how terrible thing this is. Well, then they find out it was their guy. Like, oh, well, then it's funny to me how it's not even really, they don't even take the time to think about it. They just kind of believe as soon as they find out my guy said it. It's not a good situation. I don't think people are educated enough to really know what's going on. They just know, this is my team, this is my side I'm on, and I'm behind them 100%.
I completely agree. When you were running, what party were you running with? Were you Republican, a Democrat, and were you centralist, more to the center, or you kind of more to the left or right? What did you run on?
Sure. Where I live, I mean, if you're not a Republican, you're not winning. So I ran as a Republican, but I mean, to be honest with you, I'm more, I would almost say, like a libertarian, which is the way I see it. It definitely has some both Republican and Democrat philosophy. Fiscally, I was definitely more of a conservative. I don't like the way they spend a lot of money. I think I feel my years on the fire department has let me realize a lot of ways that they do things. You might think with good intentions have negative consequences. So I'm more fiscally conservative, but as far as I do not like the government trying to regulate morality and how people live. That's crazy to me to think that you're going to make laws based on something that to tell people how they should live their life. So I would say people would say I'm very liberal in my certain policies when it comes to who can marry her, just different things like that. How to live their life. There's no way to me that the government should have anything to do with that. So I feel like that's more of a libertarian principle. And I think it makes a lot more sense than to, really adhere to either one of the parties' main bases,
What other things aside from politics, have you been doing since you stopped fighting professionally? Are you training? Are you running a gym?
Oh yeah, I've been training the whole time, helping out fighters, and I also developed. One thing I like to do now is I got something like, it's called Chris Lytle Foundation, and what I do is I go out and speak about standing up for the kids, and it's pretty anti-bully message. Go to schools and been fortunate I got to go to Germany and talk with a bunch of military bases there, with Connecticut, then we go to Ohio, and where else? Wisconsin. I've just been able to hook up with some people, and they've sent me to different states and different schools around here, been able to go talk with a lot of kids about the importance of helping people who are having trouble standing up for themselves. And, just it's a whole anti-bully thing I have going on. It's a lot of fun.
And any gym, and what do you do to keep yourself busy all day long?
Yeah, no. I mean, well, like I said, I help out at a place called Indie Boxing and Grappling. Just like today, I was in there with Matt Mitrione. He was training for his upcoming fight versus Ryan Bader. I've worked with a guy named Andrew Holbrook for many years. He's fought in the UFC many times. So, I have a gym I help out at. I do that. I've been a full-time firefighter for 17 years now. So the whole time I was in the UFC, I was always competing. I was always full-time firefighter pretty much. So I've been doing that as well. The main reason I really retired, though, was my body was feeling great. I felt like I was probably fighting better than I ever had. I think I won 5 out of my last 6 fights, and I just I wasn't really home at all. I wasn't spending much time with my kids. I felt very guilty about that, and I just chose to be home a little bit more. I mean, that's a tough lifestyle to try and work full time and fight full time. I mean, most of the guys fighters don't really have a job where they're working 48 hours a week and trying to do it. I mean, something's got to suffer. Those were my 3 things I did. I spent time with my kids, and I'd work and I'd train. When something had to give, it was usually my kids. I mean, they were the ones who were going to miss out on stuff. And I couldn't miss out on the gym, and I couldn't miss out on my work. So they kind of suffered a lot, and I just started feeling really guilty about that. So I decided it was time to spend more time at home.
Is this a one-and-done fight for you with BKFC, or do you foresee fighting more after this?
I'm not real sure. We'll have to see. I mean, I'm definitely wanting to do it just to get a feel. I'd like to. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's something about this to me. I feel like this sport actually has a little bit of a future. I think, 20 years ago when the UFC first came out, it had this kind of allure of like, oh my God, they're in the cage and they're fighting, and kick a guy in the head. It just kind of like almost like a taboo of what things you're not supposed to do. And in my opinion, that's gone. I mean, it's mainstream. It's on ESPN. I mean, it's a sport. Sport now has nothing to do with anything. Like I said before, I think this can grab that. Oh my God, they're boxing without any gloves on, and it's kind of a new thing, but at the same time, it has a deep historical root. That's the original boxing, So I think it has some interesting, attributes can make it successful for a while. I'd like to kind of be part of it for religious to see how this kind of sport grows a little bit. At what capacity, I'm not real sure exactly what I'll be doing with it. I'd like to have at least a fight or two and see what I think about it.
All right. Did you ever come close to wanting to make a return to MMA, or when you said I'm done, it has completely stuck and you never even thought about it?
Well, I mean, I obviously I thought about it at a point or two, but I was like, man, I don't like the retirement and coming back and all this other stuff. That's always been something. And really, the main point to me was, before I felt like, hey, I didn't know. I mean, I was just gone. That was what I was used to. My family was used to. Now that I've been kind of back and, spend more time with them, I would not really feel like going back to that lifestyle. I'd be training all the time. I mean, all the time. I'm training for this, but not like you have to for an MMA fight. So I'm not really willing to change mine and my family's life to go back to have another fight. And from what I've noticed, when you come out of retirement after several years, typically it doesn't go real well. Those guys aren't, I mean.
Unless you're Floyd Mayweather, he can come back whenever and still do well.
Yeah, well, you know what, though? I mean, he came back this last against McGregor.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he won, but I mean, I've never seen him look quite as vulnerable. I mean, usually he's just so unbelievably fast and so quick, and he just couldn't hit him. And I don't really think that's the case anymore. I think if he fights anybody boxing-wise in the top, I don't think he'd do well. I mean, you gotta look at this happen to everybody. Roy Jones was one of my favorite fighters, and he was just so fast. He had about a decade where nobody could touch him, and then he slowed down just a little bit, and he's been getting knocked out a lot lately. So, when you have that kind of athleticism, it doesn't work out as well when you slow down. I mean, everybody gets older. The thing I've realized is Father Time is usually undefeated when it comes to fighting. Eventually, you keep fighting, you're going to lose. You just can't keep it up. So I wish that weren't the case. I wish they could, develop something to slow down the aging process a little better, but I don't know what it is. I can't do it. I still feel like, to be honest with you, not having fought for the last several years, feel great. My body feels good. I can still move well. But if I continue to do this for long periods of time, I don't, I'm a realist, and I understand that the human body, eventually it cracks and it breaks if you keep putting it through what you put it through.
Do you have any personal stories of previous bare knuckle fights in your life, either growing up or what you may have seen that, that doesn't make this step into this style of fighting that unfamiliar? Like you have your stories behind a bar.
Well, I mean, obviously everybody's been in fights growing up, but I mean, when I first started fighting, you got to understand, back in 1998, and even when I used to fight Japan and everything back in 99, 2000, some of those fights were, bare knuckle. It was weird. You weren't allowed to punch to the head on your feet. It was like open-handed to the body. It was all, closed fit. And, you didn't wear any gloves. And I remember when you were allowed to headbutt on the ground and knee the head. I mean, it's been pretty brutal over the years looking back and thinking about it. It's just been a little bit different. So, it was always funny. I remember 1999 or 98, you'd go to a fight. What are the rules? Oh, you can't. Okay, you can't. Headbutt, but you can't knee to the head on the ground. You just figure it out when you got there. Okay, you acted accordingly. Okay, what you say? Headbutts were brutal. Knees to the head of a grounded opponent was pretty brutal. So, punching without a glove on, which I've done that before, and it's is it different? Absolutely, but it's a lot. I say less extreme than some of those other things I was talking about.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. You talked a little bit about it earlier, how, this is not going to be as brutal. But, I mean, it's still a physical sport. They're going to still be a lot of attacking to the head. I mean, we are in a world where things like CTE and the studies of that are
Sure.
out there and available. I mean, you're going to be 44 very soon. Happy early birthday. You're like a week before me.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And no problem. And you have fought 49 times. I mean, is there at all a fear of, I know I want to try this, but it's just not worth it. Who knows the extra miles this a fight or two could put on me? It's not worth it.
Well, not really. I mean, when you say 49 fights, that's like a fish on a record, but I've had a lot more than that. I mean, like I said, none of my early fights before, I was fighting in Indiana or some other states when they didn't have commissions. You go back and look on there; they're not on there. So I probably had over 70 MMA fights plus 15 professional boxing matches. So I had even more than that. And what you're saying, absolutely, it kind of worries you. But one thing I've realized when I'm doing this is this isn't about me. I realize coming out here now, I can't really get hit as much. You get hit, you're going to get stopped. You're going to get cut. So I'm focusing on right now the actual sweet science of boxing and moving and trying not to get hit and trying to hit. So the good thing about that is I kind of realized a little bit more skill that I've always had. I hadn't really used as much. I felt like looking back, I was almost in a way trying to prove I'm the toughest guy in the room. I'll sit in the pocket, I'll trade, I'll do whatever. But I'm trying to work on the actually not getting hit now. It took me 20 years to figure that one out. That's how slow but I mean, I feel like I'm not sitting there just trading punches. That's not my goal in this. My goal is to hit this person and not really get hit. So, and the main thing with that is not only in a fight, but I'm a firm believer. You take most of your damage probably in the gym. For every fight you have, you're in there sparring a lot more. But my sparring now is different. I'm not in there trading punches. I'm trying to move and be slick and dodge punches and hit. And it's just a lot better for me what I'm doing right now. I feel like, if I had to do any type of fight, this would be the only way I would. I don't think I'd like to go back and do a boxing match. I don't think I'd like to go and do an MMA fight, just for the reasons you're talking about. I know that I feel like I'm an extremely tough-minded person. I got a thick skull or something, but I mean, like I said earlier, I know the human body, and I know, I'm pushing to the limits, and I don't really want to go over that line.
So would you say your opponent is going to be in surprise thinking he's going to see the guy from the UFC in boxing, he's going to get Sugar Ray Lytle?
Hey, I'm hoping so. Unless he listens to Sure Dog and reads Sure. Hopefully he'll be like, oh, Chris might move a little bit more. But here's the problem. I know me too. I know, when a fight happens, the smartest thing I ever heard Mike Tyson say was everybody has a game plan until they get punched in the face. So I can see me getting hit, like I just start. I can hit this guy and just start slugging. I'm gonna have my my coaches in between the rounds slap me in the face. It's like, Seth, Chris, get back. What do we work on? Let's work. You know what I mean? So I can't just fall into old habits, which might be harder than I think. We shall see.
All right. Last question. Again, thank you so much for the time. Now,
I love it, man. It's been good, Jason. What
did your family, friends, and supporters think about the news that you were going to get into bare knuckle fighting?
Oh, well,
that says it all.
Not quite as good. Most of them were just like, I thought you were done with this. Most of them, worry about me for the same reasons, you're talking. They were very happy. Oh, I'm glad he's done doing that. He hasn't had the damage. He's not, you hear some people talk from boxing, and you're like, oh, man. And that was always my goal. I remember, like, my second pro boxing match, I heard a guy talking. I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this anymore because I do not want to end up like that. So I get their reservation. Most people are like, what are you doing, man? Stop doing it. I mean, you're retired. Keep it up. I'm like, I don't know. Like, just something. It's hard. You have these competitive juices, and there's something about a fight where, you go through like a 2-month camp or 3-month or whatever it is, and you have a goal, and here's my goal for this day. You set up your life around, losing weight and getting in shape and doing whatever, peaking for this day. And you have, as a goal-oriented person, I'm always like, man, most of your goals don't really have an end date. Like, okay, I want to be better at this. I bet it's just an ongoing thing. This is like a finite time. On this day, this is when I accomplish my goal. This is when I don't accomplish it. And then when you're able to accomplish it, it's very, very addictive, a very good feeling you want to have again. So I guess I probably missed that for a while and just get back into camp and, doing some positive things for my body. My weight's getting down. I just feel like cardio's better shape. I enjoy it.
How long is your camp going to be, and what's your daily schedule? Are you training twice a day, once a day for 3-4 hours or more, or what's your schedule like?
Yeah, well, I mean, usually I'm trying to train pretty much just once a day, but obviously when I'm training, I'll also do different times. I'll do just a little bit of cardio in addition to what I'm doing. So I guess you could say that twice a day sometimes, but sometimes it's just one. It just depends. I'm trying to get in there and work something nearly every day. Usually take off on like Sundays and everything, but usually I'm trying to get in there and do something almost every day.
How many weeks is your camp?
Well, my camp for this one was probably close to about 8 weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Usually I would like to do like a 6-week camp, but I mean I've been training for this for quite a while, just trying to, I've had to put on the brakes a lot and try not to do too much. Because, I'm overzealous and I'm trying to do too much. My coach is like, you need to, right now you know how to fight, you're in shape. You just got to make sure you don't overdo it and overtrain and hurt your body. I mean, you're older, you got to slow it down a little bit. Don't spar so much and just relax, just stay in good shape and make sure your eyes are seeing the punches coming. You're able to move and react, and that's what we're working on.
Oh, well, Sugar Ray Lytle, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate you giving me the time.